Hello everyone. For this week's video lesson, we're going to be talking a little bit about critical visual literacy in non-traditional forms of literature and in everyday life. One of the things that I want you to keep in mind for the rest of this lesson is that when I say literature or literacy, I don't always mean books because literature takes several different forms. So let's get started with a quick overview of critical visual literacy. So just grab your notebooks and a pen or a pencil because you'll need that for later on. So critical visual literacy is basically just the ability to interpret, negotiate, and make meaning from the information that's presented in the form of an image. So literacy is normally associated with written text. So a lot of you, I'm sure, have heard it as literacy as connected with books specifically, but I just want you to remember that images can be read just as easily as words can. So something that's different between visual and linguistic literacy. So again, linguistic literacy would be the type of literacy that's associated with books, whereas visual literacy is the type of literacy that's associated with images. So visual and linguistic literacy can really work side by side, complementing each other and adding meaning. So for example, in a comic book or a graphic novel, which I'm sure a lot of you have read, an image tells a story and then words add to that story or vice versa. So you might have an image and then, you have those boxes with the dialogue and the text, and that will just add to those images. So I just want to go through something here with you. So this is an ad, and I want you to just take a second and just see what you notice. So this would be a really great time to pause the video and take some notes on what you see. So you might see that this man is standing over the rest of these men. You might notice the color of his skin versus the color of the other men's skin. You might notice the position that they're taking. You might notice the words on the top of the screen. And then I want you to just put all of those things together and make meaning of that, and that's critical visual literacy. Since this is an ad, this is a really great example of the fact that critical visual literacy can affect every aspect of your life, not just academically. You can look at ads and like this Intel ad and make meaning from them and determine what the person who made this ad was trying to tell you. And then we can move on from there. So this will be a more classic example that you might use within the classroom. So this is a graphic novel, American Born Chinese. And in graphic novels, there's a lot of critical visual literacy that you have to look into. So we can do another example. What do you notice about this image? So this is another point in this video where you can just pause and maybe write a couple of notes about what you see in this image. So go ahead and pause. So what I see is that having these two images side by side, you can see the similarities in the two figures. So on the left, there's a monkey, and on the right, there's a human, but they're positioned in exactly the same way. They're both in a car. They're both looking at the viewer in the same way. And then you can kind of determine what the person who drew this is trying to say about this. So I would think that because they're positioned in exactly the same way and they're in the same vehicle, that they're the same person. So obviously there's more context that goes into these two images if you read the graphic novel, but that's a really important thing. So when you're reading something like a graphic novel and there's these two images that are playing off of each other, you can look for the similarities, you can look for the differences, and then determine what those add and what those mean. So now it's your turn. So I just want you for next class to find at least two images that you can demonstrate your ability to be visually critical with. You'll be demonstrating this ability in front of the class, and I want those two images that you choose to come from two different forms. So for example, you can do an advertisement and a graphic novel like I did. So I chose an image that was an advertisement and I was visually critical with it, or then you grab an image from a graphic novel and I was visually critical with that. And I want your images and your analysis of those images to be prepared in some type of presentation format. So I did a PowerPoint, and you're welcome to do a PowerPoint. You can print out the images, you can pull them up on the computer and just explain them, as long as they're in some sort of presentation format. And I want those two images to be from two different sources. And then something else I want you to do is prepare for the discussion that we're going to be having about critical visual literacy. So I want you to create one question that will spur discussion about this critical visual literacy for the rest of the class. And this question can be related to an image that you chose to analyze, an image that I chose to analyze, or it can be just about critical visual literacy in general, as long as it really spurs that discussion that we want to have going. And then I want that question to follow the guidelines for a level 3 question. So we've gone through that a little bit in class, but something that I want you to remember about level 3 questions is that they really make connections to other things, they're thought-provoking, and they have more than one answer. So just remember that when you're creating that question, it has to have all of those things. Alrighty, so thanks for tuning in. Remember to come to class prepared for your presentation and our class discussion. So just keep everything that we talked about during this video in your brain and keep being visually critical. There are underlying messages in overt meanings in basically every image you see. So if you just keep your eyes peeled wherever you go and whatever you're doing, you will find that you understand the world on a much deeper level if you keep being visually critical.